Today we continue to listen Anattalakkhana Sutta. First we have to recite Anattalakkhana Sutta, Vijnana page 119. Vijnana page 119. Can you follow me? Vijnana Bhikkhave Natta Vijnani Jahitam Bhikkhave Atta Abhaisa Naida Vijnana Avadaya Samviteya Labetacha Vijnane Evo Me Vijnana Hodu Evo Me Vijnana Mahositi Yasamaja Ko Bhikkhave Vijnana Naddam Tasma Vijnana Avadaya Samvitati Naja Labati Vijnane Evo Me Vijnana Hodu Evo Me Vijnana Mahositi. We recite together. Vijnana Bhikkhave Natta Vijnani Jahidam Bhikkhave Atta Abhaisa Naira Vijnana Avadaya Samviteya Labetacha Vijnane Evo Me Vijnana Hodu Evo Me Vijnana Mahositi Yasamacha Ko Bhikkhave Vijnana Natta Tasma Vijnana Avadaya Samvitati Nacha Lavati Vijnane Evo Me Vijnana Hodu Evo Me Vijnana Mahositi. Translation, follow me. Monks, Vijnana consciousness is not self, soul or living entity. Monks, if consciousness was self, it would not tend to afflict or distress, and it would also be possible to say, let my consciousness be thus. Let my consciousness not be thus. Monks, in fact, consciousness is not self. Since it is not self, it tends to afflict and distress, and it is not possible to say of consciousness, let it be thus. Let it not be thus. Vijnana Bhikkhave Natta. Monks, consciousness is not self. Vijnana, 6 kinds of vijnana. Chakku Vijnana, eye consciousness, Sota Vijnana, ear consciousness, Kana Vijnana, nose consciousness, Jiva Vijnana, touch consciousness, Kaya Vijnana, touch consciousness, and Mano Vijnana, mind consciousness. These 6 kinds of consciousness are held to as self or living entity. It is not surprising that seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, etc. is taken to be self, a living entity. But in fact, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, etc. is not self, living entity. So Buddha declared that Vijnana Anatta, consciousness is not self, and then he continued to explain why consciousness is not self. Vinyaninja hidam bekwe atta abhavisa. Naida vinyana abhadaya samvitteya labitaja vinyane evo me vinyana hotu evo me vinyana mahositi. So Buddha gave the reason why consciousness is not self. If consciousness was self, the inner substance, it will not tend to afflict. It is not usual for self to oppress self. It should also be possible to manage so as to have always wholesome state of mind and not to have unwholesome attitude appearing. But as a matter of fact, consciousness tends to afflict, and it is not under your management. It is not under your control. Consequently, it is not self, the inner substance. So Buddha stated directly the consciousness not being self. Marx, in reality, consciousness is not self, so it tends to afflict, and it is not possible to manage consciousness. Let consciousness be always wholesome. Let consciousness be not unwholesome. It is not possible to manage your consciousness. Not only human beings, but even devas, as well as other creatures, cling to the belief that consciousness is I, consciousness is self. However, consciousness is definitely not self. Not being self, it tends to be oppressing. How consciousness is oppressing? Yes, consciousness oppress. You don't want to see what is repulsive and horrible, but you see what is repulsive and horrible, then consciousness oppress. You don't want to hear bad news, unpleasant sound, unpleasant talks, but you hear, you don't want to smell foul of offensive odors, but you smell offensive odors. You never wish to think of depressing, distressing, sad and horrible mental object, but depressing, discouraging objects frequently interfere. We all beings like to dwell only on pleasant sights, but according to circumstances, we may have to face horrible and repulsive sights. We don't want to see that person, this person, but we have to encounter them. Some people are very unfortunate, unlucky. For these unfortunate people, the majority of what they see is made up of undesirable object. That is Chaku Vijnana, seeing consciousness tends to oppress. We ever wish to hear sweet sounds, sweet words, good news, but circumstances are not favorable all the time. We have to listen to unpleasant sound, stricken with misfortune. People may be subjected most of the time to dreadful noises, threats, rebukes. This is a way Sota Vijnana, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness is oppressing. Again, we all beings like to enjoy nice, clean smell, but we have to be patient with foul odors. There is Gana Vijnana, knows consciousness oppress. The oppression by eyes, ear, and nose consciousness are not very apparent in the human world, whereas in the animal world, you can look at the animal world, you can see the worlds of hungry ghosts, betas, and Niria hell. The oppressive nature of these consciousness are vividly seen. Creatures in the animal world are almost constantly seeing horrible objects, hearing dreadful sounds. And some creatures existing in filth have to smell putrid, foul odors all the time. And it is clear that hungry ghosts and beings in hell will far worse than animals. These beings will be all the time submerged in distress, seeing bad sights, hearing bad sound, smelling bad smell. In some hell realm, everything seen, everything heard, everything smelled, tasted, touched, and thought about is unpleasant. There exists nothing pleasant for them. They are being subjected to oppression all the time by the 6 kinds of consciousness. So that hell realm is Sappasa Yatanika Dukkhatana. The Buddha said, very horrible realm. Sakku Sampasa Vedana, feeling born of eye contact, horrible, everything is horrible sights. Sota Sampasacha Vedana, so hell beings are tortured by the other beings and hearing the unpleasant sound all the time, etc. So these hell realms is Sappasa Yadanika Dukkhatana. All men like to enjoy only a good taste, but unfortunate people have to exist on bad food. This is how tongue consciousness oppresses. In this respect too, the oppression is more apparent in the four netherworlds. Men like to feel only pleasant sensation, but when circumstances would not allow, they will have to endure with undesirable experiences. For instance, when they are suffering from a sickness, at such time their suffering is so oppressive that they even yearn for instant death to get released from these horrible suffering. It is far worse, of course, in the four woeful states. Man would like to live carefree life all the time. Nevertheless, circumstances would not allow them lead such a life. Instead, there are many who will struggle with depression, disappointment, sorrow, and lamentation. So some people never get out of this misery and unhappiness throughout their life. So they became victim of oppression by the manovinyana, mind consciousness. So the oppressing consciousness is not subject to our will, arising as determined by circumstances. Vijnana, consciousness is unmanageable and uncontrollable. Although we may wish for a pleasant sight, in the absence of pleasant object, we cannot see a pleasant sight. A hateful, horrible sights will be seen when there are unpleasant objects around, when the eyes are kept open. So this is how Chakku Vijnana, seeing consciousness, is not subjected to our will. It arises of itself, dependent on condition. Although we may wish to hear only pleasant sound, conditions are not favorable, and in the absence of pleasant object of sound, pleasant voice, it cannot be heard. So it is necessary to keep for himself provided with musical instrument when desired, pleasant sounds and voices. Unwilling to hear undesirable sounds, when there are such sounds and voices, unavoidably they will come into our ears. So hearing consciousness is unmanageable, arising itself depending on condition. Although we like to enjoy sweet smell, conditions are not favorable. A sweet smell is not present, our wish cannot be fulfilled. So people provide themselves with scents and perfumes and flowers. However unwilling we may be to breathe in bad smell, when foul smell exists around because of the wildfire, we have to suffer from their smell and other physical sickness, such as headache, etc. That is how nose consciousness is not under our control. It arises of itself depending upon circumstances. Although we wish to enjoy good taste, pleasant taste, consciousness cannot arise because conditions are not favorable in the absence of good food. It arises only when good food is taken. So pursuit after food day in and day out. So when we become sick, we seek relief and cure by taking bitter medicine, which we do not relish. It is how tongue consciousness arises of its own uncontrollably and unmanageably. Touch consciousness can be pleasant only when there are pleasant objects such as fine clothing, comfortable beds, good seats, etc. So, constant effort has to be made to acquire animate objects for delightful sensations of touch. At such time, when it is extremely hot or extremely cold, or when we are faced with dangers such as thorns, spikes, fires, and arms, or when we are taken sick, we have to suffer. However, we are unwilling from the effect of undesirable touch consciousness. Some people have to be lying down on the bed for long. Touch consciousness is oppressing. So it is obviously uncontrollable, arising on its own, dependent on circumstances. Everyone wants to have a happy, joyous, contented life. This can come about only when you are well provided with sufficient wealth and health. So it is necessary to constantly endeavoring for maintenance of such a way of life, while thus engaged in seeking the means of a comfortable, joyous living. Sometimes conditions are very unfavorable, and thoughts about difficulties in everyday life, about beloved ones, husbands, sons, about financial and business problems, about aging and sickness, may arise to make them unhappy. It is how Manovinyana, mind consciousness, makes its own appearance unmanageably, uncontrollably. So now we know this law. This expression, in accordance with circumstances and condition. It is meant to connote circumstantial and conditional causes that will produce a certain resultant effect. What that means? It means also that good causes will give good resultants, bad causes will end up in bad effect. No resultant effect can be brought about merely by your own desire. A certain resultant effect will arise from a given set of causes, whether you do not like it. Resultant effects are produced from respective causes. That means they are uncontrollable. They are unmanageable. They are not. It is obvious they are not safe. They are not our inner substance. So Buddha stated that my consciousness is not safe because it is not under our will. So that expression need to remember. Conditional causes will produce a certain resultant effect. Good causes will give good resultants, and bad causes will give bad effect. Can you follow me? Conditional causes will produce a certain resultant effect. Conditional causes will produce a certain resultant effect. Good causes will give good resultants. Bad causes will give bad effect. So that is resultant effect cannot be brought about merely your own desire. If there is no condition, it will not happen. A certain resultant effect will arise because there are causes. Certain resultant effect will arise from a given set of cause, even though you do not wish for. So resultant effects are produced from respective causes, and it is clear that it is uncontrollable, unmanageable, it is anatta. So Buddha taught thus to get rid of clinging, samyata clinging. If you hold that there is a self inside you which can be controlled and managed, if you cling in this way, that is samyata clinging. Another clinging is if you believe there is a permanent self residing in you, that is samyata clinging or nivasiyata clinging. When you remove samyata clinging, nivasiyata clinging is vanished at the same time. So when it is realized that resultant consciousness is developed only from the conditional causes, and that consciousness soon disappear. Once it has arisen, it becomes obvious that there is no such thing as a permanent, enduring self. When you see something, you capture the process of seeing. The seeing consciousness arises, you capture, and then you capture the eye sensitivity and the object of sight. A hearing consciousness can arise only when there is eardrums and the sound wave. Nose consciousness can arise only when there is nose sensitivity and odors. And tongue consciousness can arise only when there is tongue sensitivity and taste. Body consciousness can arise only when there is the body and tactile object. Mental consciousness can arise only when there is a mental base and mental object. When you know these conditional causes for the arising of respective results, the view of permanent entity can be discarded. Now you are taking note of phenomena of psychophysical phenomena at the time of its occurrence. You perceive clearly that depending on conditions such as eyes, size, consciousness, as consciousness I consciousness arises and vanishes recurrently. You perceive in the way and you clearly understand that there is no self or living entity which is bringing about the act of seeing, etc. So meditator realize that there is only seeing consciousness arises when right condition prevail. In this way, you can get rid of karaka atta clinging. If you believe all action, physical, verbal, and mental are done by self, or the action are done by the inner substance, that is karaka atta clinging. So for those people who cannot perceive through heedful noting the true nature of consciousness as they really are, they held in the form of Sami Atta, Nivasi Atta, and Karaka Atta clinging. It appears that the aggregates of Vijnana consciousness are more firmly attached to than other aggregates within a Khanda, Sinyakanda, and Sankharakanda. At present time, it is being referred to as soul or living entity. In everyday language, it is more commonly talked about, whereas feeling, perception, and evolutionary activities, although mental concomitant, are not generally referred to. So at the time of the Buddha, there was a disciple, his name was Sati. Bhikkhu Sati mistook Vijnana to be atta, clinging to the wrong view of self. Monk Sati declared, I understand what the Buddha had taught. And he claimed it in this way, the Devida Vijnana Santavadi Sansarati Aninyam. That means the present Vijnana. It is the present Vijnana, the same Vijnana that has been transmigrating and wandering from existence to existence. It is not another Vijnana. This is the understanding of the Buddha teaching. Bhikkhu Sati based his view on the Jataka story. In the Jataka story, such as King Visandara, who was very, very generous, King Visandara becoming the Buddha. Chatan Elephant King becoming the Buddha, Buddhadda Naga King becoming the Buddha, etc. In the last existence as Buddha, there were not the material aggregates of the King Visandara. There is not material aggregates of the Elephant King and Naga King, etc. But the Vijnana, consciousness of the last existence as Buddha, was the same that has existed previously as King Visandara, Elephant King, Naga King, etc. Vijnana remained undestroyed, enduring, stable throughout the rounds of existence. This was how understand. So Bhikkhu Sati declared in this way. So he was recounting about the Buddha teaching. His belief is nothing but nivasi atta clinging to vijnana consciousness. And other learned disciple of the Buddha tried to explain to Bhikkhu Sati, Bhikkhu Sati, you were wrong in this view, in your view. They reminded him, but Bhikkhu Sati remained to refused to change. He said that he knew the Dhamma more realistically than other monks. As a matter of fact, anyone claiming to be the Buddhist faith should ponder well to see whether his views are in accord with the teaching of the Buddha. If the person hold on to views which are not in accord with the teaching of the Buddha, then he is actually outside the dispensation of the Buddha. Failing to persuade monk Sati to abandon his wrong views, other monks went and reported the matter to the Buddha. And Buddha sent for the Bhikkhu Sati. When asked by the Buddha, Sati repeated his view. Bhante, based on the Jaraka story as recounted by the Blessed One, the present vijnana is the same as the one which had existed in previous lives. That consciousness has not reached destruction but passed on from existence to existence. This is how I understand it. And then Buddha asks Sati, what you mean by consciousness? And Buddha and Bhikkhu Sati replied, Bhante, consciousness is that which express, which feels, which experience the fruits of good and bad deeds in this existence, in that existence. And Buddha said, Moga Purisa, you stupid one. Buddha admonished, to whom have you heard me expounding the doctrine in this manner? Buddha said, I have explained Vijnana consciousness is arising out of condition. I have explained there is no arising of consciousness without condition. In spite of that, you have wrongly interpreted my teaching and attribute that wrong view to me. You have caused the arising of many bad deeds, holding this wrong interpretation of my teaching and committing the wrong deeds of talking about it. We cause distress and suffering to you for a long time to come. However, monk Sati refused to give up the view which he took to be right. Dogmatic views are frightening. Sati was a bhikkhu disciple of the Buddha. He followed the Buddha teaching and claimed to have understood the Dhamma. Yet, we find him obstinately refusing to give up his strong views, even when exhorted by the Buddha himself, of course, which amounted to not having faith in the Buddha. Nowadays, too, there are some religious teachers teaching that there is no need to keep 5 precepts. There is no need to practice meditation. It is enough to follow and understand his teaching. When learned people of goodwill try to point out the true teaching to such teacher, who hold that misleading view of the Buddha teaching, they do not accept. So there are many instances where non-dhamma, adhamma is being handed round as dhamma. So it is essential to scrutinize any such teaching so as to get out what is not the teaching. It is essential to scrutinize. So today we understand that there is cause and effect. Conditional causes will produce a certain resultant effect. A certain resultant effect will arise from a given sets of cause, even though you do not wish for. Resultant effects are produced from respective causes. Now many wholesome causes you are developing. Regarding the vijnana, yogi try to contemplate every vijnana. Chitte, Chittanupasi, Viharati, Attapi, Samajano, Satima, Vinaya, Loke, Beja, Dominasam. Can you follow me? Chitte, Chittanupasi, Viharati, Attapi, Sambajano, Satima, Vinaya, Loke, Beja, Dominasam. So you try to contemplate every vijnana. Every vijnana. So what are the conditional causes? Atapi, virya, that is effort, ardent energy. Samavayama, satima, mindfulness, ever mindful, and then concentration. produced. And then you comprehend clearly. So these are conditional causes. Atapi, Sambhajano, Satima, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Jnana. These conditional causes you are developing every moment by noting every vijnana. Can you follow me? Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, Jnana should be developed. So Atapi Sambhajano Satima, and then certain resultant effect will be produced. What are the resultant effect? That is Vinaya Loke Bija Dominasam. The moment you try to be mindful, that moment Abhija and Domanasa can be removed. The moment you're not mindful, the moment you do not produce conditional causes of Atapi, Sambhajano, Satima, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Jnana, Abhija, Domanasa, Lobha and Dosa, desire and discontent cannot be removed. So the moment you contemplate, the moment you produce conditional causes, resultant effect will be produced. Abhija and Domanasa, desire and discontent can be eradicated. Here, by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing Kaya Vedana Chitta Dhamma, you can remove mental defilements momentarily, temporarily, by vipassana. So the removal or overcoming momentary, it is just by substitution. Next moment, if you're not mindful, if you do not contemplate, if you do not produce conditional causes, mental defilements may come back. So it is of a very short duration. It is called abandonment by substitution. That means you abandon, you eradicate the unwholesome mental state by substituting them with the wholesome mental states. When there is a wholesome mental state, there cannot be any unwholesome mental state. Because Viriyas, Sati, Samadhi, and Pinya are there. When there are wholesome mental states, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Jnana, Atapi, Sambhajano, Satima, unwholesome mental state cannot enter. So you put wholesome mental state in the place, and so unwholesome mental state do not get a chance to arise. So this is called abandonment by substitution. That will last for only a moment. The next moment, mental defilements may come back because you're not mindful at that time. At the moment of vipassana, the desire and discontent are removed in that way by substituting them with mindfulness and clear comprehension, satima and sambhajano. So you get out of vipassana, you stop vipassana, and you meet some condition for them to arise, then abhijja and domanassa will arise. And if you practice more continuously and meticulously, there is another kind of abandonment. It is temporary abandonment. That is abandonment by pushing away. When you push something away, it may stay there for some time. It may not come back quickly, like plants in the water. If you push them away, they may stay away for some time, but then very slowly they may come back. The kinds of removing is called temporary abandonment or removing or removal by pushing away. That is achieved by your jhana. When you get jhana, when you experience jhana, you are able to push the mental defilements away for some time. The mental defilements may not come to you for the whole day or maybe a week or a month, but in the case two, they can eventually come back. Sincerely and seriously you practice the final, that is samocheda, cutting off. It is like you cut the root of a tree and it never grows back. So the total removal or removal once and for all is called removal by cutting off, and that is achieved at the moment of your enlightenment. And the mental defilements eradicated at the moment of your enlightenment never come back to you. So enlightened person has eradicated all mental defilements, and he has no attachment, no anger, no pride, no jealousy, and other unwholesome mental states. Even though they are provoked, they will not get angry. Even though they may see a very, very attractive and beautiful object, they will not feel any attachment for that object. Those are the person who have eradicated mental defilements by totally cutting them off, because conditional causes are very great. Atapi, Sambhajano, Satima, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Jnana, these conditional causes you all are developing. So due to your practice, you can remove mental defilements momentarily, temporarily, and finally you can remove totally. So we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena, by observing every kaya, vedana, citta, dhamma, by noting rising, falling, sitting, standing, walking, stretching, bending, seeing, hearing, continuously and meticulously. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.